We are back with singer-songwriter Fernando Ortega. Thank you again for just coming today. And I want to unpack a little bit of your spiritual journey, because you kind of grew up in a Christianish home, I think, at least, right?
Yeah, definitely a Christian home. My parents they met in a Presbyterian school, and both of their parents were from little towns in northern New Mexico, and they had converted from Catholicism to the Presbyterian church when they were young. So anyway, that kind of, everything was very Presbyterian when I was a little boy, and I loved it. I loved being in the choir. I loved holding a hymnal, and that's how I learned to harmonize, listening to my parents harmonize on both sides and watching how lines of notes rose and fell and everything. And then, you know, Sunday school and all those things are things I still remember from those days. But there was a point where when I was maybe 12, that I've experienced a sort of disenchantment with Christianity and with the very stoic services that my parents went to. And I left Christianity and explored, Eastern religions and stuff. However a 12-year-old would. I was reading especially books, Gandhi's autobiography, that really stirred me and kind of made me want to be like him.
There's a lot to admire there.
There is a very great leader. And then I ended up finding my way back one night to a Pentecostal church, where I walked in and I just could not believe the exuberance that these people were experiencing as they were singing out, about God's name and His power and His love, and I just joined in. It was a place where people danced a lot, So
you probably never had seen that coming from your faith tradition.
No, I hadn't. It blew my mind. It scared me, actually. But I was in that church for a long time, about 7 years, and then I slowly started finding my way back. I went from there to Baptist, which seemed like a transitional place, and then slowly found my way back to a more liturgical setting, which is where I really feel the most at home now.
And I think what's interesting is, as you started that faith journey again, you really at first didn't want to say, really commit your life to Christ, because that's what they were encouraging you to do. You didn't want to say He's Lord. Tell me about how that actually gradually happened.
There was this girl in my class she was a friend of mine, and we were pretty rebellious together when we were in 7th grade, 8th grade. And, we just broke all the rules at school, our little gang of friends. And then she became a Christian. And so we were in art class one day, and she would come in for a whole semester, she kept reading the Bible to me while we would do our drawings or our projects or whatever. And I remember she always was popping her gum while she was talking. I was so annoyed that she would read me the Bible and pop her gum. But, I think maybe after 2 months, 3 months of hearing the things that she had to say, I really realized I didn't have what she had. She was so joyful all the time, and her life wasn't easy. And I said, what is that scripture again where you have to say something about who God is? Or she said, if you believe in your heart and confess with your lips that Jesus Christ is Lord, you will be saved. So I stood up on my chair, and I got the attention of the class, and I said, hey, everybody, Jesus Christ is Lord of my life. And then I sat down, and they kind of looked, and she looked at me and she said, did you just do it for real? I said, yeah, I did. She started crying, and I cried a little bit, and that was my salvation experience.
So what happens to you on the inside when you make that declaration, or just that decision to really say, I want a personal relationship with Christ, not just, a religion or a church that I go to?
Well, I remember I had messed up my home life so much. I mean, I was so rebellious that my parents were just so tired of what I was doing. And I came home and I just felt like, now this can begin to mend, And there was that sort of where we could all breathe together, and they recognized something profound had happened in my life. It was very dramatic change from the boy that the direction they had seen me going in.
I'm pretty glad that you stood up on that chair, because I don't think we'd have all this beautiful music if you hadn't done it. So thank you.
Oh yeah, I'm glad I did too. It was a little strange, but yeah, I'm glad too.
That's a great story. Well, thanks so much for just unpacking a little bit of your life and bringing your beautiful music to us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
if you are interested in exploring a little bit more about your spiritual life, maybe you grew up in church, maybe it wasn't your thing, and you're like, is there really any difference between going to church and knowing Jesus personally? We'd love to chat with you about that because we've both experienced that change. It has transformed our lives. We'd love to invite you to do that as well. If you want to know a little bit more, please give us a call, 1-866-273-4444.